Hello,
And
everyone. Welcome to House Money Fantasy uh, NBA Breakdown. We're going position by position on tonight's main slate. Have with me TJ, and joining from the train, we have Rob. You want to introduce yourself, guys?
What's going on, guys? Hopefully win some money tonight on this pretty ugly slate.
yeah, I actually prefer this type of slate for cash, though.
Really?
Yeah, I play smaller slates for cash, so I'm okay with this.
But the games are just kind of ugly. Let's
Yeah. Why don't we kick things? We're gonna go position by position here. TJ, why don't we start with point guards? Who you like tonight?
All right. Well, obviously the top guy on the 4-game slate is going to be Russell Westbrook. I think he's fine. So you're going to have to make a decision, I think, between Westbrook and Harden on DraftKings at least. It's hard to fit both of them in because there's not a ton of cheap punt value. And I would prefer Harden just because the matchup's a lot better. I mean, Westbrook going against the Heat is a really tough matchup. He's a stud. He's got a huge floor. So, I mean, I think he's still fine. And I would prefer him in tournaments to Harden because Harden has not nearly as high of a ceiling. But for cash, I'd rather go Harden. How about you, Rob?
Yeah, so I'm good with either for cash or tournament play, but I agree. I think you're going to have to pick one for DraftKings. If you look at the article on the site today, I did make a cash lineup with both that I'm actually pretty okay with. Even have Gobert as my center. So, and only I think one other guy who was a 3,500 min salary guy for FanDuel. So, yeah, there is a way to do it on FanDuel. I could not make it work on DraftKings in a way that I liked it.
I've noticed that too. It's very hard to fit in more than one guy over 10K on DraftKings. But on FanDuel, my lineup has both Westbrook and Harden also.
Yeah, Westbrook's last game against the Heat was actually one of his worst games of the season. He only put up 36.3 DraftKings points. So, worth looking at. All right, let's.
You guys like anyone cheaper than that on DraftKings?
Yeah, Rob, who do you like a little bit? Step down from Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, so for point guard, the only other guys that I'm looking at are Isaiah Thomas. If you look at his stats, he looks like he had a monster game, but it wasn't an overtime game, so it's a little bit inflated. I think he's great for cash. Tournaments, his upside, I mean, if you're paying down, his upside's good enough, I feel like, if you want to try and fit more of a balanced lineup. Dragic is my favorite play of the night. If he plays, I really hope he does because I have him in single lineup I have so far.
Yeah.
And if you're going to go any cheaper, Shelvin Mack is the only other guy I'd consider.
Yeah. Just if Dragic does sit, we're looking at Tyler Johnson to be the
he'd be starting
at point guard.
He should start at point guard if Dragic is out. But yeah, like Rob said, I prefer Dragic to Thomas by a lot. It is a little concerning that the Heat have had 3 days of rest and Dragic just popped up on the injury report today. But Russell Westbrook, we've been targeting point guards against Russell Westbrook because he just goes so hard on offense that it's hard for him to keep up on defense, and he allows a lot of fancy points. But I really like Goran Dragic. Outside of that, I actually like D'Angelo Russell against Utah. Rob,
I actually forgot about him.
Yeah, so he's like I think he's too cheap on DraftKings. I mean, you look at his last 5 games, he's got 25.8, 27, 33, 32.3, and 31.3. And he's only 5'1". I mean, I know it's Utah, but without Larry Nance, too, he gets a little bit of a bump. So I think he's fine for cash. I mean, you really don't need him to do that much for you. And then outside of that, it's pretty, like you said, Tyler Johnson would be a fine play if Dragic is out. Shelvin Mack.
I don't have it in front of me, though. Is Tyler Johnson point guard eligible on FanDuel or just on DraftKings?
He's a point guard on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he's also a point guard.
He's both.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, but
he's only
isn't he shooting guard eligible?
He's only a point guard now on DraftKings.
Really?
Yeah. So he become. I think he's a
make.
Yeah. I think he's a fine play if Dragic is out. And then, yeah, like Rob said, Shelvin Mack, and that's probably it that I would I would look at.
Um,
Mike, we should say, Rob, do you have any Mike Conley love at all, or I mean, he could sit tonight.
No, none.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's a game time decision.
I don't think he's a terrible play, but I mean, on the second night of back-to-back and he's dealing with an injury, he's probably off the radar.
All right, now let's look at shooting guards. Who do you like, Rob?
So obviously, if you're playing FanDuel, well, he's eligible on DraftKings as well, but Harden, obviously. You're going to have to pretty much choose one or the other. After that, it's pretty ugly. I'm okay with Avery Bradley in cash because he's got the peripheral stats that he doesn't need to score on a nightly basis. The matchup, though, isn't great. Looking at DVP, I think Memphis is in the top 5. One against shooting guards, so
yeah,
not a great matchup.
Yeah, he only had their last matchup. He had, let's see here, 28.3. So that's not. I mean, that won't kill you if he gets 28.3. You're only looking for about 30 from him. So.
Right. But I think if just like Isaiah Thomas, that was probably the overtime game, and that makes it look awful.
Correct. That's right. Yeah, you're right.
And again, I apologize. I do not have players listed in front of me, so I'm just going off memory.
Yeah. I can give you some.
Why don't you run down? Yeah, you give me names, and I'll tell you what I like.
Let's see. Well, James Harden, especially if Patrick Beverley misses this game, I think James Harden's a must then. If Patrick Beverley's out, even though
I agree.
I know that Dallas is better against point guards, but he's just going to have to carry the load offensively.
I don't know what the split is, but I'd imagine the usage with Harden without Beverly.
Oh yeah, it goes up. I mean, even without Capella, he's been playing better. So without Beverly, it goes up significantly.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're looking at. I actually think if Beverly is out, so they would start Harden at point guard, and would Eric Gordon start at shooting guard then? Yes.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
That's the projected.
So he'd be a great play, I think, because I mean Dallas struggles against, not great against shooting guards, and I think Eric Gordon's going to get the minutes. He'll be fine. Another guy in that game, Wesley Matthews, is okay. Yeah, shooting guard's a little ugly tonight. I think Wesley Matthews is fine. And then let's see what else we got here. I like it. If you're looking for a cheap punt play, I think Nick Young, even against Utah, is fine. He's getting the minutes. Without Larry Nance, he does get a decent usage bump. I mean, I'm fine with him. It's not great, but for a punt.
I don't know how confident I could be starting someone whose nickname is Swaggy P, but
I mean, he's been his last few games. He's gotten 28.5, and then he had a 17 dud, and he had 28, 28.5, and 45. So I mean, he's getting it done. He's getting consistent minutes, so I don't hate it. And he's he's not much. He's got a slight improvement at home too. Playing at home tonight.
What's the deal with Rodney Hood lately? Is he just battling injuries?
Yeah, he's been battling injuries.
Going through a slump
all year long. I'm off him tonight, even though it's against the Lakers.
I'm off him as well.
He got hurt. You've been off of him.
What'd you say?
That was that one night that he got hurt and he killed you.
Yeah, he's not playing. His last 2 games, he has 10 and 13 minutes. I guess he's worth a shot in tournaments. I don't know how many minutes we can project him for. Maybe, he's worth a shot in tournaments, I guess. But for that price, I'd rather go to Eric Gordon than Wesley Matthews for around the same price.
Yeah, I think Wes Matthews is probably the best play.
Yeah, he gets so many minutes. How did he do? Oh, I wanted to mention that Harden. Because we actually have a decent sample. He's played Dallas 3 times this year, I believe. Yeah, and the first 2 were at the very beginning of the season. They played 2 games. It was a back-to-back, or not back-to-back, but they played 2 times in a row, and he did pretty poorly in those. But his last game against them, he put up 57.8, which is about what you're looking for tonight. So, in terms of Wes Matthews against Houston, let's see here. He did. Oh wow, he's done his last 2 games against Houston, 40.8 and 37.3. That's just what you're looking for. Yeah, so I'm fine. I like Wesley Matthews tonight.
Anyone else you want to mention, Rob, before we move on to small forward?
No, I think we pretty much got it covered. I have a list of guys on the article, so it's a little bit more in depth of what I had in front of me. With me being on the train, I cannot obviously look at salaries.
This is Milwaukee District West Line, train number 2231.
Just so everyone can tell, I obviously am on the train.
Franklin Park, Roselle, Schaumburg,
I think we lost TJ.
We lost TJ. That's not good, seeing I'm
So it's just my
the one that you would
face, and then
and
you
my-
without. Oh God.
my
Right,
deep,
well,
seductive voice.
yeah. That's basically why we're all here anyway. So we can keep pressing forward. You want to talk about who you like
Yeah,
at small
so-
forward?
Yeah, so small forward, obviously, right off the bat, is going to be, for me, Gordon Hayward. Just any of the forwards against Lakers, they are giving up the most fantasy points to them. They're worst in DVP, so they are. Oh, okay. I thought I lost you there too.
No.
Yeah,
Still
so
battling.
those two are my biggest. The bigs in Utah are going to be my biggest outside of Westbrook and Harden. Let's see. Justice Winslow was another guy that I like going in tonight.
I like Jeremy
Again,
Grant.
I'm doing this by memory.
Jeremy Grant,
Yeah,
3,200.
actually, he was my punt play in my lineup with my Harden and Westbrook at 3,500 on FanDuel. He's seeing more minutes. I think he's been averaging about 18 fantasy points a night over the last 10 games. So
Good evening, welcome aboard. This is the 450 westbound train making scheduled stops to Elgin, Big Timber. Westbound train making scheduled stops to Elgin, Big Timber.
Oh God.
The rush hour train, and we have two quiet cars.
we come with sound
Locate a
effects.
second car for both ends of the train.
It's
If you use the
like
mobile
TJ's
app,
replacement.
you
We
can go
have
ahead and activate that ticket now. Conductors will be coming through collecting tickets. Thank you.
Make sure you have your tickets ready. All right. Well, I'm also using Harrison Barnes in my FanDuel lineup, but kind of just the way the pricing worked. I don't really have anything good to say about him, so we can move on to power forward. Who do you like as power forward?
All right, so power forward. Again, you could play Hayward here as well on DraftKings. Johnson is the guy I'm looking at the most. Put up 35 fantasy points in the last outing that he had against Oklahoma City. So he's just coming back from injury. He's averaging, I think, over 30 minutes per game. And his salary is $5,000 on FanDuel and I believe $5,300 on DraftKings. I could have those flipped. Luol Deng is another guy who I'm looking at playing with Larry Nance out. He's just been seeing a ton of minutes lately. He's been hitting value like crazy. Yeah, I like him in cash, not as much as tournaments though.
Well, his last two games, he has 40 points and 31 points. So he's been playing pretty well lately. Other guy I like at power forward is on DraftKings, Montrezl Harrell, the center on FanDuel, but I just love him as a player. I mean, his stats aren't anything great, but he's just so much fun to watch, and I love to just have him on my teams.
Yeah, as soon as Capella went out, his value just skyrocketed.
Mhm.
I wish you could play him as a forward on FanDuel, but like you said, he's only center eligible. So for me, he's only a punt play on there. We'll get to centers obviously in a second, but yeah, he's definitely worth looking at in DraftKings.
And let's just hop right into center. I mean, I have Hassan Whiteside on both sites. I think he's the way to go.
Yeah,
What do you like?
he's like a lock for 40 points, so he's great for cash games. He's got the upside to hit 60, so he's good for tournament plays as well. I don't think you're going to be able to lock him in with either Harden or Westbrook. Maybe if you do some type of stars and scrubs with one of those guys in Whiteside, you could do it. Rudy Gobert is my number one choice for tonight, though, as he's averaging, I think, either 42 or 44 points on DraftKings against the Lakers over his last 2 games. Mentioned earlier, him and Hayward are guys I'm targeting tonight in cash. Then Marc Gasol had a really rough game, so I'm hoping that his ownership levels are a little bit low. So he's, to me, a good tournament option for a good bounce back.
I haven't even considered him. I'd imagine his ownership's quite low.
Yeah, and the matchup is actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Still there, Rob?